Hello everybody and a very warm welcome back to the latest episode of Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco. I do hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. This week we're really getting into disco as we're featuring the great Carol Douglas. Karen Douglas had actually an appearance in Saturday Night Fever without many knowing it. So you will say, now I've seen this movie 100 times, I haven't seen her, not even in a cameo. Well, you might be surprised. And also, why one of her songs, actually Doctor's Ordered, is considered as one of the tracks that brought disco into mainstream, well, we'll discuss this after some needle drops. Douglas was born in 1948 in Brooklyn, and from very early on she knew that she somehow wanted to be part of the showbiz. So when she was 10 years old, she appeared on a TV show which was called Name That Tune. She is also the cousin of the late singer Sam Cooke, so music was quite famously in the family. When she was in high school, she was part of a trio which was called April, May, and June, and they released a single which was called He Went Away. Also during that time, the group was signed to RCA Records, and Carol had the opportunity to release a solo single, and that single was called I Don't Mind Being Your Fool. There was a problem. At that time, she was 15 years old and she got pregnant. And you can imagine at that time that the record label wasn't so happy about these news. So what happened next was that the record label dropped her. They were not interested in promoting a teenage girl which was pregnant. But that didn't stop Carol. She was taking part in singles. She cut singles for various brands, and she was also taking part in theatrical productions. So at that moment in time, she wanted to become an actress. By the late 60s, she was part of an oldies circus. So what that means is that groups who were famous at the beginning of the 60s or the mid 60s were making bus tours to high schools or theaters and making appearances. And Carol was one of them. She was part of the group The Chantels, and with them she also recorded for Capitol the songs Some Tears Fall Dry. Times and things would change dramatically for Carol when one day she opened up the magazine Showbiz. In Showbiz, there was an ad from the record label Midland International Records. And the president of that label, and also a producer, Eddie O'Loughlin, was looking for a female singer who would cut a song for his record label. Carol took the opportunity and went for audition. And the result was, just after a couple of minutes after she performed in front of Eddie, that he gave her a 5-year contract. The song he had heard was actually a song which was making the rounds in the UK, and it was called Doctor's Orders, which was sung originally by Sonny, who was a part of Sue and Sonny. This group itself has a fantastic backing story, but maybe we get to this group at some point later. Absolutely fantastic story, an interesting and fascinating story. But let's continue with Carol. The single was produced by Meso Mondardo. And Meso Mondardo at that time was also producing a female vocalist with the name of Gloria Gaynor. They were working on a track, actually also a cover version of Never Can Say Goodbye. And Both tracks were released at the same time and became smash hits. Also, these tracks were not just featured on the disco charts, no, they also became part of the pop charts. So we kind of can say that around that time, disco got mainstream. We're talking about 1974. After Doctor's Orders, Carol released a couple of singles and a couple more albums without Meso, but she continued to do that. And there's a special album I want to point out, which is my personal favorite of her, and this is Midnight Love Affair. We are now in 1977. And you remember in the beginning when I said that she actually had a kind of appearance in Saturday Night Fever? Well, when John Travolta is driving with the guys to the Odyssey 2001, they pass by the marquee of the disco, and the marquee clearly says, Saturday, Carol Douglas, next week, Blue Magic. When they drive through or in the parking lot, the marquee changes again, and it now says a different name. But her name was mentioned on the marquee because the Odyssey was a real disco where they taped the movie, or they shot the movie. Also, when John Travolta is entering the disco, you can hear a tiny little snippet of Midnight Love Affair. Why she was not included in the soundtrack, or why they didn't use a longer version to use into that movie, well, we'll never know. If you have additional information to that, I would love to hear the story. Please write it down in the comments below. But yes, that was her appearance in Saturday Night Fever. So you can see by just a simple shot that she was appearing in the clubs that she was at the height of her career around that time. Also in 1977, she recorded a song for a soundtrack of the movie Haunted, and the song was called You Make Me Feel the Music. What an appealing cover art. Well, after this release, Carol or her management decided, well, let's do it the easy way and let's work with cover songs. It worked with Dr. Orders. Maybe it works as well. So she covered songs from Hot Chocolate, from ABBA. Honestly, I'm not so mean of this. I wish they would have given her original material because talent was absolutely there. Also, an album I want to point out, which I like very much, is Burnin', and it features a cover song, but that's called Night Fever. Yes, this Night Fever. These records are fantastic. Otherwise, if you see her albums in your local record store, I would, of course, if I would be on your place, try and listen to her. My recommendations are for these two albums. I love them, but maybe the cover songs are something for you. In the early 80s, she continued the recipe of doing cover songs, for example, My Simple Heart by the 3 Degrees, which was also being used in her new French label, which was called Carré Records. They released that and they took part of all her European releases, her European catalog. And also Eddie was once again in the game with Midnight International, which now was the next Plateau label. They took care of her American releases. In 1983, Carol released her last album, which was called I Got Your Body, and it was actually renamed to Love Zone for the US market. We could have ended that story up here, but once again, and I'm so happy for this, we have a little happy end. During the beginnings of the 2000s, disco had a rebirth, which I embrace very much. So people became once again aware of disco music, and also that it has been sampled for house music, and I wanted to know the original tracks. So what happened was that Carol got back into the spotlight. And today she's still touring, she's still going on stage, having the time of her life and celebrating the music that was once so mainstream to everybody, and everybody loved disco. And nowadays people don't say, oh, disco sucks. No, they embrace the music, and that's so wonderful. And seeing her on stage as she's reliving these memories is absolutely astonishing. So if you have a chance, check out Carol Douglas. You'll find her releases. I have here one from France and one from Germany, between 5 to 8 euros. Well, the covers are very often a little beat up because those were the records you took to the parties, but price-wise, between 5 to 8 euros, and you get a fantastic record. My preference is Midnight Love Affair. I love this album, and also look at the back cover. I mean, isn't that a stunning picture? Oh my God, she looks absolutely fabulous. So all I can say is give Carol a chance. You won't be disappointed. This was it for this week. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.